Just wanted to show you one of the really cool features coming, at least cool from a development side, is more targeting Java developers, those who are looking to extend dotCMS. How do I integrate dotCMS? How do I get my own application into dotCMS? One of the things that we started shipping in 2.0 was an OSGI module. It's been kind of repurposed or renamed to dynamic plugins. And with that, what I'm running here is actually a 2.1 version of dotCMS, not released quite yet as of the recording of this video, but 2.1, and I have some additional code in here that we will also be releasing, if not in 2.1 and 2.1.1, that brings the idea of taking those dynamic plugins, and you could now drop your own servlets, drop Spring right inside them. Really opens the world. It allows filters, all kinds of things. The two examples that I'm going to show today are actually a servlet and Spring. How would I deploy a servlet or a Spring in dotCMS? And again, for those that are familiar, this isn't like the static plugins. These are dynamic plugins. So this is Spring deployed in dotCMS at runtime, on the fly. You don't have to restart the server or anything like that. So let me just give you first a quick walkthrough of what we have. And they are located as all of the current examples are, and example plugins under docs, examples, OS, but now there's a directory called OSGI. And the one I'm going to show you today is there's a controller here. And we kind of built these examples. You can kind of use them as a skeleton. What they require is this manifest file under meta-inf, and of course, then you'd have to build a jar or something out of it. We have build XMLs down here. So much like our other plugins, all you'd have to do is copy it out, use our examples as a skeleton, and then build from there. So let's take a look at this controller. This controller is a really cool one. This is the Spring example, and it has a couple of files that matter to us. One file is, of course, the Spring wiring file, and in here it's not very complex. We actually are shipping now with a view resolver for Spring, so that you can, follow Spring's little MVC, their own little built-in MVC, and here we provide a view resolver for dotCMS. So when you provide the path here and the suffix, prefix and the suffix, this is a directory application and then Spring within dotCMS, and in my dotCMS I actually have the file extension set to HTML. So that's how this is working. And then everything else I wired through annotations. So if we go look at my controller now, we have an example controller here, which is in the same plugin. I just have my source right now plugged right into Eclipse, so it's easy for me to debug. I'll show you that in a minute here. But I have this controller. He's got a couple source files that matter to me, but I just want to show you my example controller, and you can see here he's wired the /example controller, and then I have two methods, one which will listen to just right at the root of example controller, and he just spits stuff out, nothing real fancy. And another one that listens at /example controller / some dynamic username here that then gets passed into the method. And then I spit out, hello, the username, welcome to Spring 3.1. And that's what we're running here. We're running Spring 3.1 here. So the wiring of this, how does all of this magic happen? One of the things that's required is an activator. Now, if you don't need don't need the dynamic plugin to really set anything up, the activator is not needed, but usually you will. And in this case, the activator is needed. So what the activator does in this case is very simple. And again, you can kind of copy and paste and edit this stuff. He actually is wiring the Spring Dispatcher servlet. You can see that here. I get an instance of the Spring Dispatcher servlet. I set the configuration equal to the location of the example servlet XML I was just showing you, and then I register that servlet. And this could be done for any servlet. And we have a Hello World servlet that does the same thing. It's a lot simpler example here in the Spring, but the concept's the same. In this case, we're just taking the logic that implements the servlet and we're actually putting in its own OSGI context here, or its own plugin, the Spring servlet. The nice thing is it even can provide things into dotCMS, hence the view resolver works, which is not part of the dynamic plugin for those that are wondering. That code, the class for right here, the view resolver, this is on the dotCMS class path. So it's possible to actually share the class path and stuff there. I'm going to show that to you here. That stuff is all controllable, and what's shared and what's not via the meta-imp file. And this is where you actually define the activator that you'll be running. So it says, oh, here's the bundle activator. Let me run that one. So you can name it here. And in here you see the import package, and this is the provide package and so forth. So this is like, what does it provide? What does it import? What does it export? What does it import? Things of that nature. What's its name? Its symbolic name is Spring OSGI. And in fact, for those that haven't seen, we actually have a back end now to the dynamic modules where if you want to load them manually, you actually can come here, load plugin, and it would give you you can drop actually plugins into an available directory, or actually when you load, there's actually a modal window that'll pop up and ask you, okay, let me upload my plugin, upload this one, and it drops it. So you actually can do it from the web UI. I'm not going to do it from the web UI today. I'm just going to show you a listing of it. I'm just going to manually copy them into a directory while we're running. But it is possible to upload it here from the UI. And you can even stop these and start these, see what's deployed and what's not. So here's all the fun. Here you could see in my URL, I'm hitting my local host. I'm running in port 8080. And here's dynamic, and then Spring, and then example controller, and then ASD. Okay, so just to go back and refresh for a minute, the dynamic is what we have mapped. So we map our dynamic plugins to /dynamic. Now, you could change that if you wanted in a normal static plugin, like the plugins we've been shipping with for years. You could override our mapping there and provide your own mapping. By default, right now, we're shipping with /dynamic, just to put it somewhere. If you look at our activator, the activator mapped the servlet to /spring. Okay, so that's how we got there, /dynamic /spring. And then the controller mapped himself to /hello world. So, /dynamic /spring /example controller, and then if you remember that second method it then took a username. So let's say Jason. And here you can see, hello, Jason, welcome to Spring 3.1.cms. Now, this is deployed in a jar, in a dynamic plugin, and can be undeployed and redeployed basically at will. We could write as the server is running. There's no need to stop the server, nothing like that. In fact, I even have my clip set up here. I could even kind of debug. And you can see this source is actually living. Oh, actually, I opened the wrong one there. Sorry about that. The example controller is where we want to be. And you can see this source is living in docs, examples, OSGI. So this isn't in the main dotCMS class or anything. This is sitting in my jar. And in this respect of the way I have them set up, I can still even debug here if I want. There you go. Kind of OSGI running. Another proof of concept here. I could come and stop. Remember my symbolic name was Spring OSGI. I can stop this guy, which is going to say, all right, undeploy that module. I could now try to hit that URL, and now I get the 404. He's not there. We would have to start him again, let's make a change to them just so you could see this happen. We'll say hello edit. Okay, and what I need to do now is build my change. And here I'm in the controller. So you can see my path. I'm in docs, examples, OSGR, and we have a little build script here. So I'm just going to type and. And it built pretty quick. You know, there's not much going on here, 4 classes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that jar to the load directory. It's under dotCMS webinf Felix load. And the load directory is where these guys get dropped. It's kind of a live directory to hot deploy. But again, you could do this from the back end in dotCMS 2.0 and 2.1. You could do this by uploading through the back end. So I went ahead and I copied. And I copied my jar in there. And I was actually waiting for it to deploy, but you know what? We stopped the Spring OSGI. And I'm just going to refresh here to see you can see it's in a stop state. It's installed. I'm going to go ahead and start it again. It had remembered that it was stopped, so it doesn't redo him or redeploy him, even though I copied a new one in there. Okay, he's running now. Let's hit this URL again, and now you can see there's my edit. So this was hot deployed. Java code, run, Spring controller, running out of a servlet, deployed at runtime. Very, very cool functionality. Very, very good way of extending dotCMS. You'll see servlets, filters, the Spring, all of this shipping pretty soon. We have the ability to provide view tools this way already in dotCMS 2.0, as well as actionlets, which are those actions that you can put on a workflow in dotCMS 2.0 plus. And that's also very cool, great extension point for dotCMS. And moving forward, you're going to start seeing the dot marking config properties be able to be extended from here, and even other classes and files added that could potentially be accessible to dotCMS. So I hope this was useful. I know it was a little technical and so forth, but I hope for those that like such things and are into Java code and extending dotCMS that this will be something that'll really be helpful to you.